Do you have a bunch of like meetings at work?
We do have meetings. Most of them actually, are online.
What's the hardest thing about your workday?
Probably balancing meetings, especially when it's like a really cram-packed day, meeting after meeting after meeting, and kind of deliberating between like when I can get breaks in between.
Do you feel like these meetings are kind of skippable, or?
How come you know me so well? Well, I do.
You're not the only one that hates meetings, and author Jennifer Moss has a classic solution to meeting fatigue.
We've gone from 45 billion video conferencing minutes annually in 2019, and that shot up to 157% in 1 year. We're now at around 252 billion meeting minutes a year. There is no reason why we've had to increase that that number of minutes of meetings. Yes, we're using video conferencing, and it's beneficial. It's been great. I mean, it got us through the pandemic, but it's not really helping us be efficient and productive. And we're measuring productivity, and organizations are questioning why they're seeing this lack of productivity or disengagement. It's because we're over meeting, and we need to get back. People are pulling themselves off of video conferencing, not only because they're distracted, but because they feel bored, and they also feel disconnected, or they don't want to speak up. So we're losing high-performing people that are just not comfortable in these situations. So a lot around that to unpack, but essentially video conferencing we should be resetting that, reestablishing rules around that. And then we also need to look at finding other modalities of communication, like getting on a good old-fashioned phone call and having a chat that way, and instead of getting on video conferencing.
Excuse me.